Michel Barnier today warned every day counts as he arrived in London for make-or-break Brexit trade negotiations. The Brussels diplomat faces a race against the clock to reach a deal with UK counterpart Lord Frost after Boris Johnson walked out of negotiations when his deadline for a pact lapsed last week. Downing Street insisted there was no point resuming discussions unless there was a change in stance from the EU. Mr. Barnier offered number 10 an olive branch by agreeing to accept Britain's sovereignty in future wrangling over the trade deal. He insisted it was very important to be back at the negotiating table, having agreed to intensify negotiations and put pen to paper on the final deal after months of stalling. I think it's very important to be back at the table, he said, arriving in London. Every day counts. I think we have a huge common responsibility. EU insiders believe the two sides have just 3 weeks to finalize terms on 11 outstanding issues, including fisheries and common standards, and also draw up a joint legal text, which could run up to 500 pages. One diplomatic source said, "There is about 3 weeks left before we get to the very limits of this process." Another said any further delays would mean the EU would not have enough time to fully ratify the agreement, a process which ends with a vote by the European Parliament. The official said, "It's already going to be a struggle getting the deal ready for the European Parliament on time." The UK and EU are hoping to conclude an agreement by November 15, and have planned to hold intensive negotiations in both London and Brussels. Progress was made possible by Mr. Barnier, who dropped a long-standing demand for Britain to make concessions on fisheries and the level playing field before putting pen to paper on the final agreement. A UK source said, "We got what we needed and are ready for serious negotiations." During a phone call yesterday, Mr. Barnier and Lord Frost agreed to resume talks after a 5-day standoff between the two sides. Downing Street agreed to resume wrangling over a post-Brexit deal after the Frenchman offered a number of concessions during a speech in the EU Parliament. Mr. Barnier said, "The EU wants a deal that will be mutually beneficial to both parties, a deal representing a balanced compromise. We will seek the necessary compromises on both sides in order to find an agreement, and we will do so right up until the last day it is possible to do so."